Welcome back to the channel. Today we're looking at the brand new Remette Knives Kingfisher. These come in at $219, and I will say at first when I first saw this, I was like, I don't know about this, but I now have to eat my words because after using this blade, I was pretty impressed. I'm not gonna lie. But you have this crazy drop point recurve blade with like a very fine blasted finish there. And I don't know what type of finish, like what type of blasting this is, because this is just like the one that we does. I've never had these corrode like I've had on some of those heavier blasted finishes. This one has a nice top swedge and fairly thin tip there, not super dainty or anything. If you need to pierce into something, you could do that rather easily. You do have a nice crisp secondary tip right here from where it meets that recurve. It's a very, very subtle recurve. After I finished all the testing, I sharpened it up just to see how bad it was. And I did this on my TS Prof system, and even with the full-size stone, you just got to kind of be careful. They make thinner stones. They're not as wide. That would make it a lot easier. I also have curved stones from a Wicked Edge, so whatever I choose to do there. I usually just use the corners of my Spyderco Sharp Maker to sharpen recurves. There is no jimping up top, but I didn't find it necessary. But this is a nice full-size knife coming in at 8.11 inches long with a 3.46 inch blade of Bowler M390 stainless steel with a 60 to 62 HRC. And I've tested quite a few Remette knives now, and they've all performed really, really well. This one has a tall flat grind. It's a lot thinner than I expected. It's around 16 thousandths behind the edge, so nice and thin. I cannot remember what the edge bevel's at. I think it was like at like 21 or 22 degrees per side, somewhere in that ballpark. Right away when I started the testing, I was interested to see how that recurve would play out. You know, that small of a recurve would play out in the cardboard, and man, it trapped that cardboard just like a deep recurve would do, and it sliced very, very well. One thing about that fine blasted finish that they have, it's very, very slick to the touch, so I find it passes through stuff like cardboard a lot better, and it doesn't smudge up as much as I thought it would. It came with a great edge out of box, and it performed really, really nicely. And then we took it on over to test the ergos and see how the edge wants to bite. And I was kind of curious, once again, how this blade shape was going to do in my wood shaving portion of my testing. It worked great. I mean, I've tested other recurves, and they do a great job with keeping it in that cut. It grabs it, and then as that recurve pulls in, it wants to go deeper. So you definitely have to finesse your cuts a lot lighter if you don't want to go deep into the wood. But I was mainly checking for ergos because I did have a spot on the handle that I was kind of worried about because it kind of ramps up and there's like a point there. But luckily, my fingers kind of stayed away from it. I didn't really feel it. If you had large hands or extra large hands, maybe it would be sitting on your finger. But for me, it was okay. I didn't have to stop or anything, or I didn't really feel any hot spots. And I was able to get a lot of pressure into the wood without anything hurting, because the scales are nicely and gently contoured, so they were very comfortable. So what I'm trying to say is it's going to depend on your hand size, whether this one's going to be good for you or not. So then we took it to the sisal rope and that longer drop point section where the belly goes up to the tip. Man, cutting on a flat surface, this thing is going to really, really excel at that. Because you have that deep belly, and it's like you got that whole edge to use. But it was nice and sharp, passing through that sisal rope very, very well. And pinch grip was nice and comfortable. And I think when I started doing the rope cutting is whenever I really started liking this blade shape. That portion is just, it feels like it's made for cutting like that. You can do whatever type of cut you want. You can do a sawing cut, pull cut, push cut. You know, just as long as that edge is sharp, you should be able to do just about anything you want with it. And I think we get through 135 cuts before we ran out of that piece I cut. And it still felt excellent at the end of that. Then we took it on over to the last portion of the testing, and we blast through this material. You can use that tip to do drag cuts. I think I used it in the leather. It's like I said, pretty. You got a pretty fine, aggressive tip there to do pull cuts. If you wanted to, you could use that secondary tip from where the recurve meets the belly. You could use that if you have the room. I had no problems with all the other stuff. That tubing didn't really play a part. Like it wasn't hard at all to cut, especially with that front portion. The dense cardboard, no problem at all. I think that fine blasted finish lets it pass through it a lot easier. The 10-ounce denim, it showed me I still had a good bit of bite left to the edge, and I was happy with the way this one performed, and it really shocked me. It made me a believer in this blade shape. Now let's take a look at the deployment and the action of this knife. You have a flipper and you have thumb studs, I guess, or whatever you want to call those. Those are titanium. They're anodized gold on mine. Flipping action, you have jimping, is outstanding on this knife. Look how far forward that flipper is. Tons of momentum, and this thing comes whopping out. Riding on ceramic bearings, and it's nice and smooth. It's been breaking in more and more. Those thumb studs, we're going to call them, you can reverse flick off of them. Thumb flick off of them. I would have rathered them to be regular thumb studs. I don't ever really like when you have, you know, odd shaped stuff for your thumb deployment. It works great for that reverse flick because my finger is catching this side of it. But I think for thumb flicking, I think I would have rathered a regular stud. It's not terrible or anything, but my hands are pretty beat up. So, you know, if you like flipping action though, this thing is just, it has recoil to it. It comes out so fast. Very, very nice and smooth action. Snappy and smooth on the close. Now, another cool thing about this knife, you can see how clean this side is. You have your pivot, but no body screws on here. Such a clean, elegant looking design. And then you can see right here, this is actually an inlay and it's screwed in from the inside. Everything you need to take this knife apart is with this knife. Now, my hand strength is just not strong enough, but you can push this out that way, but with your thumb and open this up. Watch, I'm going to show you. I take this, what is I think the Kershaw Pub or whatever, put the little hook right there, and it doesn't take much pressure. Watch, hook it right there, and then pop it up like that. That's the backspacer, and the backspacer also houses a flathead right there, and that'll allow you to take apart the pivot, or you could use a flathead, whatever you want to use. You have blind screw mill titanium pocket clip that's done on the inside. I'm not going to take this thing apart right now, but it's very easy. That's what I'm trying to say. You can see you have those two little screws that sit into that little spot right there. And that's what kind of locks you in along with this front portion. That front portion hooks kind of like Hinder's little system. It's kind of like that. This portion hooks that spot, and then those screws pop into that area. And you can see it's got these little zigzags in there, and that allows the pressure. See it flex? That allows the pressure to be tight. So it's kind of like the same thing that happens with your lock relief cut right there. So really cool. I love the innovation that we're seeing from Remette. I hope we get more. They just do a lot of cool stuff. Before this, it was the new way to do a gravity knife with the Remette RT Swordfish. Very cool, where it's kind of locked in the open position by these two little tabs right there. And we did some testing with this. They held up well. And overall, it's cool. If this thing had a pocket clip, man, I would carry this often. I like it a lot. I still carry it, but it's usually in one of my EDC pouches. Yeah, super cool. Now, the pocket clip is tip up, right hand carry only. It is kind of tight. It's not terrible or anything, but you can see it's pretty stiff. Goes in and out of the pocket fairly good, especially in my jeans. And that's what you have sticking out of the pocket. If you want to put a lanyard here, you could. And that way you could pull it out from the lanyard, but you could also grab it from right here to pull it out. Holds it nicely. Does hug the pocket decently well, but you do have that flipper tab sticking out. So if you stick a phone or something in there, it's going to be hitting that flipper tab. Just something to remember. Blade centering is perfection. We have some internal milling on the top and on the bottom to reduce weight as much as possible. Coming in at 123.7 grams or 4.36 ounces. Very hard to show the lockup because it's below that flipper tab, but there you go. My lockup is sitting, I'd say, around 40% or so. Hopefully it's not too bright. And even though the show side scale is flush with the lock side, they have a chamfer on both sides right there, and I have no problems getting to that lock. And I must say, the lockup on this knife is very, I can't muscle any side to side or up and down. Very tight lockup on my particular sample. Quick size comparisons with the Remette Steed and the Remette Chameleon. It's about the same size as the Steed. Ontario Rat 1 and 2. Last, we have the Spyderco PM2 and the Hogue Ritter RSK. All right, now for my nitpicks and complaints. I would have preferred regular thumb studs here. That's just me personally, even though these work just fine. I know a lot of people aren't going to like the recurve blade. I didn't at first, but after using it for a while, I did enjoy it. I'm not the biggest fan of the blasted finish, even though these are done really, really well and they pass through material nicely. I still prefer a nice raw stonewash finish. I think they look just as attractive and they hide wear a lot better. And something I was talking about during the cutting is this right here. Luckily, my hand fits right in front of that, but if you're sitting on top of that, you know, and you're cutting something downward, it's not going to be that comfortable. So, you know, hopefully your pinky is either back here or like mine, and literally it's sitting right in front of that, and I didn't really feel it. But I definitely don't think, I hate to see when you're trapped in a grip. But other than that, I thought it was really comfortable. The pocket clip is a little stiff. It carries well though, and being this is smooth, it might be a good thing. But overall, I like the innovation. I always love seeing innovation. I think it's a very clean looking design. You don't have to get it with the black finish. There's two, I think this one and one other one. I definitely love to hear y'all thoughts on this one. And stay tuned. I have the Remette Peregrine Falcon coming here soon. I just finished up the testing on that one, and that's a very interesting one also. If you have any questions about this one, feel free to let me know down below. If you're interested in this one, I will have a link down in the description. I hope every one of y'all is having an absolute amazing day. I will see y'all on the next one.